And we have a lot of great stories. We help people out, single moms, people that are, handicapped, ex-military. We're glad to keep them in the house. Some people can't afford anything because they're just down there. It's like, okay, stay in the house and you pay the taxes. Okay, great. Let's live in there. We'll make an arrangement with you to live in there as long as you want. When you die, the house reverts back to the bank. Let's get an attorney to fill all that stuff out so they don't have to worry about anything.
From the cubicle to the lab, the studio to the war room, climbing the corporate ladder, or joining a scrappy startup, experience a day in the life of the jobs you want. This is the Experience a Diddle podcast.
A diddle, spelled ADITL, stands for A Day in the Life, and that's exactly what we do. We interview professionals, entrepreneurs, and recent grads about what a day is actually like, hour by hour on the job. This podcast will inspire you to gain experience beyond the classroom and launch a career of your own.
We're your hosts, Krista Bowe
and Matt Poe.
Welcome to part one in the two-part Start on a High Note series. In this episode, we're going to experience a day in the life, hour by hour, of Scott Carson, a real estate note investor and CEO at We Close Notes, so you can decide if this is a career you can see yourself doing. He focuses on the niche market in real estate of buying non-performing or distressed mortgages from banks and hedge funds on residential commercial properties across the country. He's his own boss and has turned his company into a multi-million-dollar business. Let's get right into the day.
It's 7:30 on a Monday morning in Austin, Texas, and Scott is just waking up. He says hello to his significant other, jumps in the shower, gets dressed, and reads the news. Let's meet him, learn more about what he does, and get some key terms out of the way.
My name is Scott Carson. I am known across the country as the Note Guy. I am the CEO of WeCloseNotes.com, which is an Austin, Texas-based real estate investment and education company that I founded a decade ago. And what we focus on in real estate is the niche of buying non-performing or distressed mortgages from banks and hedge funds on residential commercial properties across the country. So I've been an active real estate investor for almost 20 years, but been very focused in the last 10 years of buying this distressed debt that's happened up with the whole recession and the banking meltdown from 2008 to 2010. Let's define what a non-performing mortgage is. And the first thing I would tell people, if you've ever watched the movie The Big Short, with Christian Bale and Brad Pitt and Steve Carell, it's a great movie to watch. I do very similar to what they do. But what a mortgage is basically that's when somebody buys a house, they go out and get a bank loan, and that's a mortgage. Usually it's for 30 years, and they're paying monthly payments on it. And what I do is I buy mortgages where people have stopped paying for a variety of reasons, whether they've lost their job and can't afford it, they've gotten sick, they've had a death in the family, they've gone through a divorce. There's a whole variety of reasons why people will stop paying. And each state in the country is a little bit different how fast you can foreclose or boot somebody out of the house. So what we do is we buy that debt, what's owed from the bank, and we buy it since it's non-performing, where somebody's not paying on time or hasn't paid in a while at all, whether it's like 3 months or 6 years. We buy that debt at a substantial discount from the bank, and then we become the bank. And then our goal, since we buy it at a discount, a huge discount, the property's still worth sizably more than what we bought the debt at. Our goal is to reach out to the homeowners and give them a second chance and say, listen, I know you've been through hell. You had some financial hiccups along the way. Do you want to pay? Do you want to stay? If you want to stay, then you got to pay. And we try to work out some sort of modification or payment plan, or sometimes we'll offer them up just cash for them to walk away if they can't afford it.
So would you ever, since you have that leg up, would you ever go in and, you want to deal with notes and everything and buying the debt, but do you ever see an opportunity and you're like, oh, I'm going to go in and buy this foreclosure in a few months?
Well, but that's the thing. When we buy the debt, we really kind of control which way it goes.
Got it. You are the bank at that point, right?
I'm the bank at that point. So yeah, sometimes we use it to take the property back, and then like in Florida, I've done a lot of that where the borrowers just wanted to walk away, and I was like, that's fine. We'll take the property back and either sell it if it's in good condition, or put a little bit of work into it and then just sell it as a traditional property.
And since you're buying it at a discount, it's an up for you regardless.
That's correct. Exactly.
So basically what Scott's doing from day to day is running an operation with a team of employees and vendors to make sure his payments on deals are met, to find other properties to invest in for himself or for his network of investors, and working on marketing materials for his business and educational curriculum. Those are for his webinars and workshops that he offers. Oh, and to top it all off, he also hosts his own podcast, The Note Closers Show. We'll link those resources for you in the show notes. Speaking of the day, let's get back into it. It's 8:30 and Scott is spending time reading in on the industry and domestic news, as we mentioned before we got sidetracked with the foundational stuff.
Like I'll jump on USA Today, check out what's some news on there. ESPN.com is another one. But then I'll also jump over to dsnews.com, defaultservicingnews.com, housingwire.com. Those are two things that I check on a daily basis for any news in the industry. Things that I might be able to use in my podcast later that morning.
You're looking for ideas mostly for content creation, or are there any trends that you're specifically looking for?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. So I look for content. I look for interesting subjects. I'll give you an example. South Carolina passed a law a while back that they suspended foreclosures overnight. The Attorney General just stopped every foreclosure for 6 months. That's a big thing for me. Because now it just delayed foreclosures in that state for 6 months. So it's something I need to know to keep up with, to then reach out to Hazel in New Jersey, or reach out to Madison Management, reach out to the senior law group, say, hey, I just saw this happen. What do we have that's in South Carolina that's going to drag on like that?
Scott needs to be on top of these things because he's buying notes all across the country, in 35 states in total. He most likely won't touch assets in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, and California, and we'll get into the reasoning behind that in just a bit.
There are multiple exit strategies when it comes to investing in notes, one of them being foreclosing, which is Scott's least favorite because that process is different state to state depending on if the state requires a judicial foreclosure or not. When the courts get involved, that's when the process takes a lot longer, plus $3,000 to $5,000 at least more expensive to carry out.
Now, in a non-judicial state, you don't have to do the court procedure. You just got to file properly based on the state. Then when the foreclosure date comes around, I'm then basically, my attorney's then going to the local county, and they have the foreclosures on usually the county steps, and the person representing the county is called the crier. They're the ones that start the foreclosure bidding, and they get the instructions from my attorney, and my attorney's asking, hey, what do you want to foreclose on? How much do you want to make the opening bid? We can only bid up to what we're owed on the property, so it's usually our opening bid, and they go from there. But it's foreclosure happens when a borrower is just non-responsive whatsoever. There's so many ways. It's my least favorite exit strategy.
How often is foreclosure happen for your deals?
So national average, if you're buying 10 notes, you're probably going to foreclose on half. The other half are going to be split up between of getting them reinstated or modified, and then a quarter of them will probably just sign the property where you walk away.
You mentioned that obviously foreclosure, that's not the exit strategy you want to go for. Can you sum up the different types of exit strategies in investing in notes?
Yeah, so there's basically 10 strategies to make sure I get them right. One is to get them to reinstate. 2 is to modify the loan of some sort if they can't reinstate. 3 is to do let them have somebody come and take over the payments, like a loan assumption, maybe have their family members or a neighbor take over the house, take over the payments, and we can let them assume the loan. 4 is to do a short sale, where we let them sell the house, and we sell it below what's owed, and we just accept the loss off what's owed. Usually we're making money, and we bought the loan for less than what they're selling it for, so we still make money that way. 5 is a deed in lieu, or cash for keys. That's where we take a deed in lieu of foreclosing. Basically, they sign the property over and give the property and the keys back to us. I could sell the note if I really want just performing notes, and I buy a portfolio and I know I'm going to foreclose on a chunk of them. I could just sell those off to somebody local, a local investor, and just sell the note. I can wholesale the note, which is an exit strategy a lot of people get started in, where they just get the note under contract at a nice price, and then they sell that contract to somebody like me, and they make a quick, a bird dog or finder's fee for whether it's $500 or $5,000 for a wholesale fee. And then there's trying to remember here. You could foreclose. Obviously, that's our least favorite. And then to resell the note. Like I said, if it gets reperforming after a while, then we could resell that note off after they made payments on time for 6 to 12 months. I think that's everything. Oh, a cash payoff, which happens from time to time as well.
And when the last or second to last scenario, when you sell it, are you selling it back to a bank or are you selling it to another investor like you?
Both. I mean, we've sold it to both other banks that are buying stuff, other investors like myself, other Wall Street hedge funds that want stuff that they want performing debt as well. So.
Back to the day. Now it's 9 a.m. and Scott is rolling into the office with his workout gear on. No stuffy suit for Scott Carson. He meets with his team and goes over what needs to be done for the day before 10 a.m. when he starts recording his podcast episode. Can you talk about what you put out today?
Yeah, I put out an interview with my buddy Steve Olsher, who runs a thing called New Media Summit. He's a podcaster, and he had an event that I spoke at. We did really well to add some guests to my thing, to my show, and some other great relationships. So I had him on to talk about his upcoming event, some of the struggles that he's dealt with, about his book. We just shared some content. So it's like I said, it's a mixture of guests and a mixture of content. Like tomorrow, we'll do the best hashtags for note investors. So I try to have a calendar going of 7 to 14 days, but that's in the morning. After I finish the show, then I may look at my email at 11 o'clock. Between 11 and 12, it's like commenting on the podcast comments on Facebook. It's uploading the video so that my podcast team can get that rocking and rolling. It takes them about 5 to 6 days to get turned around, which is fine. Then it's also communicating with investors during that time. A lot of times, hey, making sure like my staff, like if I need an update on 6 assets that Hazel's pulling that and send it to me either the night before and then I can forward that on to the investors. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're going. Here's the time frame. I'm checking with Steph, my VP of operations, for anything that needs to get paid that day. If there's an outstanding invoice or something, like, hey, can we make sure this gets taken care of? Or I'm prepping her usually Monday or Tuesday for what needs to get funded on Friday. Like, hey, there's going to be a wire coming in from an investor. This much is going to need to go to this asset. Here's the wire instructions, and try to make sure that she has that by Monday for a Friday closing, just in case there's any delays. But it's 11 to 12. I'll start looking at some emails as well. If there's anything that's relevant. I'm a big believer in cleaning and getting rid of anything that's spam. So I unsubscribe from a lot of stuff. With different projects I have different workshops. I use Basecamp.com. It's a great portal, like a message board. So I'll check that. There's I got a class this weekend. I got 125 students that are gonna be in it. And so I'll post an update like, okay, hey, here's the link you'll need for Saturday, Sunday. And here's the itinerary. And, if they ask a question, then I'll respond to those questions, usually between 11 and 12. And then, I'll make a few phone calls in the morning to people on the East Coast as it hits their lunch break time. And then usually then I'm rolling out of the office here at noon, 12:01, with my medicine ball that I usually sit on, and my shaker with ice water so I can walk down the hallway and meet my trainer waiting at the door for me at noon.
You say lunch meetings, they waste time.
Yep.
Is that something you learned through trial and error? Like you used to have lunch meetings and you just realized that one day, hey, I hate this?
Totally agree, dude. So here's one thing. It goes with nobody's going to value your time until you value your time. All right. So that was one of the most, it's like I would go on meetings and I'd drive 20 minutes to go get to the restaurant. Most of the time people are running late anyway. So it takes you a half hour. There's never a half hour lunch for the most part. It's always an hour lunch or more. Then you got another 20-minute commute back. So now you lost 2 hours of your day that you're not going to get back. Okay. So then you're behind the 8 ball. And usually I have found that most hour lunches can be condensed into a 5 to 15-minute phone call. All right. And I have a lot of people, we want to press the palms. Like, listen, no offense. I don't want to press your freaking palm. I want you to give me the direct value. My time is more valuable. I value my time at $1,000 an hour. So that's one thing. It used not to be 1,000. It used to be $200. It's moved it to $500 an hour. But that's, if you want to make $1 million a year and only work 40 hours a week, you got to figure out what that hour's worth and do the most productive thing at any given moment. And so wasting 2 hours to go to a lunch appointment didn't make sense to me at that point, when I could have them come to my office, have a cup of coffee, be in and out in 15 to 30 minutes. Great. Awesome. Okay. Another thing, about 4 years ago, I started having back problems, and I was like, listen, I need to make health a priority for me. I don't want to go early in the morning. I'm not a morning person when it comes to 7 o'clock workouts or 6 a.m. At night, I didn't have the energy. So I was like, midday, let's just do this from 12 to 1. And that's my time now for the last 3.5, 4 years. So people know that. If they call me at noon, I'm in the gym. I'll call you back when I get out at 1 o'clock when I go get my smoothie.
It's now 1 o'clock and Scott heads home, showers, and heads back to the office at 2 p.m. From 2 to like 5 p.m.-ish is a very productive time for Scott to focus on phone calls. On these phone calls, he's talking with his students from his workshop, his vendors on selling or closing notes, and his staff looking through deals that comes out and sparks an interest.
You're scheduling 30-minute calls with your students.
Yep.
What do these calls look like or sound like?
It's a good question. It's a variety of things. So like since we have a coaching program and we have classes, I will give everybody 30 minutes to talk to. Anybody wants to talk to me for 30 minutes about anything, I'm fine with that as long as it's scheduled. Okay. So we get a lot of students that are calling, they're working through a deal. Like today I had a guy call me. He's in Dayton. He's got a guy that's got 40 free and clear properties trying to pull some money out. So we spent 30 minutes structuring the deal so he could make like 20 grand on the deal. I had another call, with another student out of Michigan. She's trying to put her marketing together. And so we spent 30 minutes kind of giving her a game plan for marketing for the next 90 days. If the call ends a little bit early, I'll spend, the 15 or 20 minutes between calls, answering emails. I hate paperwork. I'll tell you this. I hate paperwork. I don't even have a printer in my office. My printer's in Shannon's office. So if I need something printed, I forward it to her. I'm like, hey, I need this printed. Bring it into me at 5 o'clock and I'll sign it, or 6 o'clock and sign it is the last part of the day. So that's what I do. I got mail in my office here that I need to go through and stuff like that. So I'll look at that while I'm, waiting for a call and knock out some stuff. Otherwise, a lot of it's junk mail that gets thrown away. So, I just try to deliver a lot of value in those between 2 and 5 if I can.
How much time do you spend just looking through deals throughout the week?
Usually I'll start getting lists in on Tuesday. A lot of our banks will send us stuff on Tuesday. I'll have an email that goes out to our bankers. We have the first Tuesday of the month. We have an email that goes out automatically to them, and it's pre-written like 12 months out. Like I've already got a year of asset manager emails that go out to 5,000 asset managers, and it's written differently. So the first Tuesday it goes out to them. Hey, what do you have on your books this month? Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great time. What are you trying to get off your books for the end of the year? So we send that out Tuesday, so that Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday, they'll send us a list usually. Okay. And then Thursday, we send the same email. Like if I have the email go out at 11 o'clock on Tuesday, we have another email that goes out Thursday at 2 o'clock to those that didn't open their first email. And so while we'll get 12 to 15% open rates on the first round of email, just sending that same email out gives us another 6 to 10% open rates to people that didn't see it first thing in the morning. So we're getting listed by Tuesday, Wednesday afternoons between 2 and 5. We'll spend the time working through the deals. Looking at the list. Does this make sense? No. Okay.
And that's when you filter out everything and go through.
Exactly.
Okay.
When we buy a note, we send out letters usually within the first 2 weeks to the borrower and say, okay, hey, thank you for not paying ABC Bank, but you now have to pay us. Okay. And ABC Bank is sending out a letter and saying, okay, you didn't have to pay us, but now you cannot pay Scott Carson. Kind of that letter. It's a hello, goodbye letter. Hello, John. Goodbye, John. And once we get that letter, then we really start reaching out to the homeowner. It's called Right Party Contact, RPC. It's trying to get the homeowner on the phone. We'll send a door knocker out to knock on the door and try to call them if they're work. Just try to track them down. I kind of could compare it to being like Sherlock Holmes, trying to track down where they're located. Okay. And as we get on the phone, that's what we want. Hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? If you want to stay, let's figure out some sort of payment arrangements, and then they've got to follow through those payment arrangements. Now, if they don't follow through, then we then say this is not going to work. We forward the file to our attorney, and then our attorney basically handles. They're sending the letters out, and they're saying, okay, we're starting the acceleration, we're starting the foreclosure proceedings, and then we go from there.
Scott and his team doesn't stop there. They'll put on their detective hats and lurk social media sites to see what's going on with the borrowers. They had one lady who posted on Facebook that she deliberately chose to go to Disneyland instead of using that money to pay for her mortgage. So Scott will screenshot things like that and keep it on record and file it in the loan file.
He wants to do anything he can to help the borrower stay in the house as long as it makes sense and they agree to pay on time. Reason being is because he's been in this situation before, and we'll get into that more in part 2. Otherwise, he can be your worst nightmare. The bank always wins, ladies and gentlemen. An example of how Scott works with his borrower who is struggling to make payments is...
I bought one note where I got the loan file, and the borrower had been trying to do a loan modification for 4 years. And what was funny is, well, it was really funny. They've been trying to do it for 4 years, and their loan had been sold like 5 times. And so when we bought the note, we called the borrower up, and you'd hear on the phone, she's just like, oh. I'm like, whoa, don't worry about it. I know that you've really been working on this. You've lived in the house for 18 years. I see that you're refinanced, pull some cash out. I can see on your notes in the file that your husband had a heart attack. Let's keep you in the house. Can you start making your existing payment? She's like, yes. I said, okay, can you do that? Can you pay a little bit extra? Can you bring like $5,000 to the table to help us cover our attorney fees and things like that to keep you in the house since you haven't paid in 4 years? She's like, yeah, I can do that. I can bring $2,500 now and $2,500 over like the next 5 months. I'm like, that's perfect. I said, we're going to reinstate you. As long as you pay on time for 12 months, we're going to drop your interest rate from 7.5% down to 0. That way you'll have that every penny you pay goes towards the principal balance instead of you won't pay any interest on the loan. And now instead of taking you 25 years to pay the mortgage off, you'll be paid off in 6.5. And it was just, life shattering for her. We forgave a bunch of debt too. My attorney told me that when she signed, her and her husband showed up at their offices to sign the modification papers. Both of them broke down crying. And about 6 months later, I get a letter in the mail. And she'd raised her 3 kids in the house. And her oldest daughter was having a baby, and they named the baby Carson after me, which is kind of funny.
Stop it. That is so sweet.
Yeah. So there's great things like that. When somebody, and we have a lot of great stories. We help people out, single moms, people that are, handicapped, ex-military, we're glad to keep them in the house. Some people can't afford anything because they're just down there. It's like, okay, stay in the house and you pay the taxes. Okay, great. Just live in there. We'll make an arrangement with you to live in there as long as you want. When you die, the house reverts back to the bank. Let's get an attorney to fill all that stuff out so they don't have to worry about anything.
6 p.m. You mentioned that if you needed something signed, you send it over. She brings it to you at the end of the day. What are some regular documents that you're constantly autographing?
Every week, I'm usually signing on selling a property. So I'm filling out the sale part of a contract, or I'm signing off on closing documents for a property that need to be notarized. So either Steph will notarize it or Shannon will notarize it because they're not on the LLC, or I'll have the front desk lady notarize it before she leaves at 5:30. So it's sales contracts a lot of times like that, closing documents, documents to attorneys. I got to sign off on loan modifications to our borrowers. That comes in, then Shannon goes and scans it and sends that over. Other contracts that we're signing, we get legal stuff here because we get stuff in from borrowers that may sue us or try to sue us. So I'm responding to that and we're forwarding that to attorneys. That happens. If you're in real estate, I'll tell you this, if you're in real estate, it's not when you're going to, or if you're going to be sued at some point, it's when. I'll tell you this. So we get sued probably once a month, but most of it gets kicked out because it's fraudulent on their part, or it doesn't hold water. We'll make an arrangement. Say, listen, you're not going to win this. You're not going to keep your house because you didn't do these things. So let's move on from that. So that's why I talk to my attorneys on a regular basis. Also, I forgot we have an accountant that comes in and hangs out usually one day a month in the office, or is downloading our stuff off of Wells Fargo and the QuickBooks. And so usually she sends me a list of items that I check off at the end of the day to tell her what they're for, what property they're associated with, and she knows what everything else is.
It's 7 p.m. and Scott is hosting a free weekly webinar on his niche topic of note investing.
We've actually been branded now as Note Night in America. We try to make sure we're done before halftime of the NFL game. Otherwise, we lose people. And then I do another coaching call to different student segments on Wednesdays. But yeah, I open it up. We'll have, we'll get 200 to 500 people registered for the webinar. We live stream it as well. And we'll get another 200 to 500 people that watch it on Facebook Live as well. And we go through a different thing. Like, what did I discuss this week? I discussed, since it was Monday night, Cyber Monday hacks. So I came up, I pulled 5 little technology things to help people. Like LinkedIn just made an announcement on Thanksgiving that you can no longer export email addresses when you export your contacts in LinkedIn. So I went out and found a software that will kind of help you with it, help people scrape their LinkedIn profiles to pull that data. We talked about another software like repurpose.io. If they're going to use video or do a Facebook Live, it'll automatically share it to YouTube. We talked about Live Leap as another software form. So it was content for an hour and a half on things that would either save them time or save them money or both.
Scott is in the office until 9 p.m. on Monday, signing off on the webinar and tying up any loose ends in the office.
At the end of the day, you're home. What do you do to decompress?
Good question. So I'm very spoiled that I don't have an hour-long commute in traffic anymore like I've done before.
God bless you.
Yeah, I know. I used to spend Austin's a great city, but the traffic sucks. So we are very blessed that we have an Alamo Draft House that's like a half mile from here. Our grocery store is right in the same parking lot. The gym, if I want to go to the gym, I can go. It's right across the street. So I go home, and usually we'll, about 2 nights a week, we'll go catch a movie, at 6 or 7, or we'll go out with friends occasionally. We're big into the art, so oftentimes if it's not a bad night, we'll make a trip downtown to Austin to 6th Street for either the ballet or a show, or catch up with some friends occasionally. But I like to get home, relax a little bit, and we go to the movie or we'll go do something fun. We've got 3 cats. It's like, okay, let's see what the crazy cats are up to. And then, just figuring out, hey, what's going on, talking with staff, making sure we can reconnect.
So you just experienced a day in the life of a real estate note investor, but how does one actually become a note investor? In part 2 of the Starting on a High Note series, join us as we go through Scott's career journey and experiences leading up to where he is today. He wanted to be the next Dan Patrick from SportsCenter, so he majored in communications originally, until he switched gears and studied business. After some tough times financially and personally, divine intervention stepped in and launched the successful note investing business he has today. Stay tuned. You can get to know us and our guests more by keeping up with us on social. Join our community on Instagram and LinkedIn at ExperienceADiddle. That's Experience ADITL. Thanks for listening. To find the show notes with all relevant links and photos for this series, head over to ExperienceADiddle.com. That's ExperienceADITL.com.
If you learned something in this episode, please take some time to help our mission by leaving a positive rating and review of the show. Each week, we bring you a new interview series with guests from different jobs and industries. So, don't forget to subscribe.